for everyone. I want to present. This presentation to the Home Builders Association, and thank you for all of you from the private and public sectors that give me a chance to present this presentation. My name is Tara Khazai, and this presentation is about the common way in producing the concrete elements in construction. As all of you know, we have two different methods for construction. One of them is popular for decades, and it is called precast cast-in-place technique. The other one is prefabricated technique, which is very common and popular in the recent decades. It starts from United Kingdom and United States, and then all over the world use it as a method of construction. In my presentation, I will start with definition of each of them. Then I go to usage of them in construction, mainly in construction, and then advantages and disadvantages of each one. And the last part of my presentation is about comparison between these two methods and compare the advantages and disadvantages of each of them. The first method that I want to discuss is prefabricated technique. We can call it precast technique as well. The meaning of this method is that we create and assemble the component of construction in another site or in the factory which is not located in the construction site. Then we transport the construction elements to the construction sites, and then we assemble them there. These methods are used for many purposes. We use it for the building and site, retaining walls, agricultural product, and utility structure, and transportation and traffic related. For example, for building and site amenities, we can use it for different elements of construction, such as beams, columns, and many other purposes. For retaining walls, we can see a lot of retaining wall in highways, and we use these methods for protecting the roads from the earth retaining system. The agricultural products we can see all over places, such as silos. We see that, and the canals. We use it for watering, and utility structure like lighting posts, and transportation and traffic related. We can see it in railroads and airports. This technique has many advantages and disadvantages. In fact, the advantages are more than disadvantages. One of the biggest advantages of this method is lowest overall cost. It means that because this method and these elements which is produced through this method are manufactured in factories, the overall cost is become lower because we can use the raw material and the base material for big usage, and we can lower the cost through this method. The other thing is we can product the elements with this technique in a shorter time because it's product in or manufacture, and the time that we specify to produce that one is very shorter than the other method. The other advantages is that we can control all the procedure of producing in a laboratory, and so we can produce controlled final construct element. And the other things, and which is very important, is this method is very independent from the weather. As all of us know that concrete needs time to become to the point of the strength, which is beginning from 3 days, then it will get to the strength point at 28 days. So the weather, which maybe varies from this period, so it affects a lot on our concrete. So with this method, which is produced in laboratory and under under control procedure and procedure, it is very independent from the adverse weather. But besides the advantages, it has some disadvantages too. For example, when we assemble the precasted elements to each other, it is the danger of leaking the water from the joint. So we need a very specific details for the joint to seal it. Then the transportation cost is higher than the other method, because these elements manufactured in other sites. So and most of the time they are very big, and the amount of them are very high, and the transportation cost is added to the cost of manufacturing. The other thing is that for the very big piece of elements, we need the tower crane, which is the rental of them are quite high price. So it's added to cost of the elements. But the other method is cast in place technique. It means that we mix the elements of the concrete in the site or near the site, and then we transport it from that close site with the truck or some other transporting facilities to the sites that we need it. So this is a method that we use for a long time in our sites, small sites and big sites. We can use this method for construction elements such as slabs, beams, column, pavements, and for a special architectural design. I mean that, like this picture, this building don't follow from the rules, so we need some special design which is not which we cannot use it in as a from. We cannot make it on the factory and then transport it to the site. We should create this form in the site. So the only method that we can use is this method. But this technique has advantages and other disadvantages too. For example, one of the most important advantages in long-term durability. The other thing is that we can the waste that is remained from producing the cement or concrete is minimized rather than the other technique. The other thing is that because we made it on the site, we don't need to cut it or revise it, because the cement at that time or concrete at that time is not very tough, and we can change it to the form that we want. So we don't need any trim or cut or changes in the form. And the other thing that which is very common today in companies is the environmental friendly or recyclability of the product. That this product, that cast in place concrete has this advantage. What about the disadvantages of this technique? We can see that we need time, as I mentioned, we need at least 3 days for concrete to meet the strength point. So we need time to reach what the strength that we need for that purpose. This method is very related to the weather, so we should control the condition of production, warming the warming the surrounding environment, or make it cool, or added water to it, and so it's very dependent to the weather. And the labor that should install this concrete with this method should be professional, and should have the basic knowledge of doing this job. Now I want to compare these two methods and give you a chance to select the method for your buildings and to your construction. In this table, I provide the table I divided to prefabricated or precasted and cast in place. The pre-work means that the things that we need before we started the work. For example, for cast in place, we need to wait for trucks. They usually give us a time, but maybe they have delay, something like that. So we should wait. But for prefabricated, we know that they are in the site maybe 2 days before, and then at the time of scheduling, we can install them. The weather, as I mentioned, is very effective. It can put many adverse effect on casting place method, but it's very the prefabricated method is independent from the weather. The concrete strength is varies according to the weather, to the condition, and to the type of the concrete is various in this method. But here, in factory, we control everything, and we manufacture it, and then we transport it to the site. Effective time for excavation is 3 days before we installing the foundation for casting place. But for prefabricated, we can minimize it to just few hours before that. And last minute changes, we can use just this method for last minute changes because, as I mentioned, it's very it isn't tough, and we can change our design. But for prefabricated, you don't have any choice to change our design or change the place of the elements. And about the hardware, all of hardware for this method we can choose from we have to choose from different companies. We should offer some hardware from different company from where we buy the concrete from them, but same company should do every stage and every hardware for this method. And now we are at the end of my presentation. I want to show you something about the amount of consumption of cast in place and prefabricated concrete in different years. As you can see, for prefabricated in 1990, the usage of that one is very little, but when we go ahead, and in 2010 we can see that it became very high, and it showed that the usage of prefabricated method is become popular in all over the world. And the last conclusion that I conclude from all over my presentation is the factor which is affected in each of them, and then according to each of them and the sites that you want to build your house or complexes, you can use one of these two methods. One of them is weather, one of them designing elements. Designing and elements, I mean that if you want to create a form, unique form, you should know aware of what method you can use. The site location, if your site is close to the manufacturer of precasted, it's very good for you because it's decrease the cost of the elements. And one of the construction. The precasted method is very good, but for not a small project, we can use it for example, a complex, and it's very effective and very logical to use. This is the end of my presentation. I want to thank you once more for giving this chance to me, and I put my business card here in the case that you have any requeries. You can call me or contact me, and